For the first time for NRIs, they will be able to do video KYC from their resident country, not India. Till now in India, NRIs have had to come back to India, and only when the IP address is Indian, that is when video KYC is allowed.
So customer support is really messed up in fintech and finance, right? Because the moment you want to reach out to customer support of a bank, they give a number, then it's AI at the other end, right? You can't chat, you won't get anything. You can chat, but you don't get anything out of it, right?
It's completely human-centric right now. It is me or Ankur or someone else from the team, like a founder's office member or a product person even chatting with our customers. And that was a very conscious decision.
But to complete the investment process, how long does it take?
From downloading the app to making your first FD or your first mutual fund purchase in USD takes less than 48 hours, and we've already done that.
So what are the very common questions that you get from NRIs? Because everything is new here, right? Even the regulator is new, even the product is new, even the gift city is new. So they have a lot of questions. So what are the biggest doubts that NRIs have? Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Home Advantage, where we speak about everything NRI finance. Today we have with us Savitri Bobde, the co-founder and CEO of Belong. Welcome, Savitri.
Thanks, Aswin. Happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. So it's been a few months since Belong launched, and I just saw that you already hit $1 million in AUM. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
It's still early days, but it shows that there is huge demand in the market, right, for NRIs. And you are the one who's handling the operations that Belong on a daily basis. So through this podcast, I want your insights on how is it like to deal with customers on a daily basis? What are the customers telling you? How are they feeling about Belong? All those stuff, right? So let's start the conversation with your background. How did you get to building Belong? How did you end up building Belong? So over to you.
Sure. So I'm originally from Nagpur. I come from a family full of lawyers, and I'm probably the only one who didn't do law. And I was with Pratham for the first 6 years of my career. Pratham is an education NGO. And after 6 years at Pratham, I thought, maybe I want to try something different. And just then in India, Flipkart had started, and all these, you were hearing murmurs about startups, and a friend of mine, Ankur, was also starting Goalwise, a mutual fund investment platform, in 2015. And he asked me if I want to join, and then I just thought, okay, let me help you with stuff. And as it goes, when you start helping someone build something from scratch, it very soon becomes your baby and you don't want to leave it. So I didn't want to leave Goalwise, so continued building that. Then in 2020, we got acquired by Niyo. It's a zero forex markup card startup.
One of the largest fintechs in India.
So they acquired us because they wanted to build a wealth vertical for their customers. And then I was there for a couple of years. And then I again had the itch to start up again. And Ankur and Ayush were already working on this idea to build a fintech for NRIs, like a financial services platform for NRIs. And that was because even when in Goalwise, when we were, servicing resident Indians, we had so many NRIs come to us and say, hey, we want to invest in India. How can you help us? And all of that. So we knew the problem was real. We knew that there are a lot of NRIs who want to invest back home and have no easy way to do it. Right from KYC, their KYC is very different. Different kind of documents are required. To transacting, they have to transact across borders. And investing in India is not the same as remittance to India. Right? Investing is far more complicated. You have PIS accounts, non-PIS accounts, NRE accounts, NRO accounts. So all of that was fairly rigid, complicated, and nuanced. So we knew we wanted to build something in this space. And it just so happened that when we were doing our customer research, we also heard of Gift City, which was just coming up as a regulatory framework for NRIs and foreign nationals to invest in India. And they had solved the biggest problem, which was KYC.
Right.
Aadhaar was not compulsory and things like that. So we just got lucky. We were there at the right time, and that's how we started building Belong.
So the idea of Belong was started even before IFSCA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, not before IFSCA,
yes,
but before it really started. You know, everyone started talking about it and things like that. So yeah.
Right. So your earlier product was called Goalwise.
Right.
And that is a mutual fund investment.
Right.
And I would say back then, even now, majority of India hasn't invested in mutual funds, right?
Right.
So back then, the number would have been even lesser.
Right.
And how was the competition back then? Just curious.
I think even then, the biggest competition were the banks. And even now for NRIs, for us, the biggest competition are the banks. It's not startups or, you know, other fintechs trying to do the same things, because there's an inherent trust with your bank. So when the relationship manager says, why don't you also invest through us? It just becomes very natural for people to invest, even though it may be a commission-based product or a ULIP that may not be the best for them. It just trust that works. And because India is such a young country when it comes to investing, and so, you know, trust really matters a lot. You do not want to go to a completely strange person or a stranger and give them your hard-earned money.
Yeah, true. I'm glad you said that, because I always say this to my clients or, you know, my friends, that banks always get an unwanted trust from people, because people think banks are great, right? They're good. They will only do good for you. But I know I've heard personal experiences where, you know, banks give you the most foolish advice possible, right? And it's all an age-old thing, because back then it was only banks.
Exactly.
But now we have a lot of other avenues to invest in, right? And Belong is also building towards that goal, right?
Yes.
So you are handling operations at Belong, right? So how does your average day looks like, a normal day at Belong?
Well, it starts at 3:30 in the morning when I wake up with a panic attack, which I have no idea what it's about, but that's what happens. Then I look for my dog or my cat and go back to sleep. After that, when I reach office, it's mostly looking at customer communication. When a customer onboards, I personally send them an email. So there are a lot of replies to that email, say asking questions or, you know, just thanking us for doing something for NRIs and things like that. So a lot of customer communication and all of that. Then it kind of then there are varied tasks. There's some bit of marketing, there's some bit of product, and there's some bit of managing the office and things like that.
So you're saying this message is not automated?
So it is automated, but it goes from my inbox.
So do you add a CTA there? Like, you know, do you nudge people to?
I think the first email doesn't have a CTA. It's just welcoming people to Belong.
But they still feel comfortable asking that question to you?
Yes, because that email is written by me. It is signed off by me, and it goes from my email ID. It doesn't go from a no reply at Get Belong or from the team at Get Belong. It goes from Savitri at getbelong.com.
Because the reason I asked is, you know, mostly when you sign up in an app, you get an email. Even though you have the urge to reply, you reply and you get nothing back, right?
Right.
They say don't reply to this email. But that, you know, is a very important thing when you are onboarding to a new platform, because Gift City is new, Belong is new. So when someone is trying to understand what Belong is, and if they're actually getting a reply, that actually matters a lot, right?
Yeah. And you know, like I said, we are, like you said, we are building in a new space.
Yeah.
It is NRIs and their hard-earned money, right? They have left India, they've left their homes to go abroad and build a better life for themselves and their families.
Yeah.
So I feel like their money needs to be handled with extra care, and the only way to let them know that we want to do that, and that is why we exist, is to have personalized communication.
Right.
So this email is just a part of the larger personalized communication that we try to do at Belong.
Right. So how do people discover Belong right now?
So there are a couple of ways. Of course, mostly it's social media. A lot of it is through your videos too, and some of it, and increasingly now, a lot of it is through word of mouth. NRIs are a very close-knit community in any country. We all know that. So if 5 people are investing somewhere and they've had a good experience, we haven't pissed them off, they are very likely to tell their friends about it.
Right.
So that number is increasing, which is obviously the dream for any startup.
Yeah, true.
And so it's social media and it's word of mouth.
And then they come to your app.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So that's the first point. They are in the first relationship with the Belong, right?
Yes.
They download the app.
Yes.
And then how does the journey look like after that?
So the person downloads the app and then does onboarding, which basically is some details and your passport and your Emirates ID in UAE or whichever resident ID, right? Once that is done, they've uploaded everything, they've filled in the details. They just need to schedule their doorstep KYC. Once they've scheduled their doorstep KYC, at their time of convenience, our agent goes and completes the KYC process. As soon as the KYC process is done, the verification is done, their account, their Belong account is ready for investments. Very soon, and hopefully by the time this video is out, right, we are going to have video KYC and digital KYC, which will make it much, much easier for NRIs to invest. So this whole doorstep KYC part that I just spoke about will go away. And for the first time for NRIs, they will be able to do video KYC from their resident country, not India. Till now in India, NRIs have had to come back to India, and only when the IP address is Indian, that is when video KYC is allowed.
Right.
But in Gift City, just recently, I mean, just a few weeks ago, they came up with a regulation which allows video KYC for NRIs even if they are sitting in the US or UK. So we're very, very excited to launch that, and it should be live in a couple of weeks.
Lovely. So I think that will be a revolution in Indian fintech, right?
Yeah.
Because even when I speak to a lot of people, they say starting an account in India is a hassle. So it's weeks of sending documents back and forth. And if there is a mismatch of a signature, that's done. You have to do it again over again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So most people, I mean, connect with Belong through their app, right? And from a conversation point of view, like you talking to customers, so what are the channels that you use mostly to connect with them? How does communication happen?
Right.
Yeah, because being a startup, right? So
yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned earlier, there is an email that I send out to customers as soon as they're on board. Apart from that, we have WhatsApp support. So right when they sign up, they can see like a WhatsApp support button. They can click on it. They can talk to us. Beyond that, we also have a WhatsApp community. It's a very vibrant community only for NRIs. We send out a short questionnaire, and only if they're NRIs are they allowed to join. So that actually has really worked well, because if somebody has any question about AIFs or KYC or anything to do with their finances, they can ask in that community, get responses from community members. And of course, if it's a factual thing, Ankur or someone from the team responds to them. So that is also a very important channel of communication for Belong customers.
Right. I think that's the best way to, increase the word of mouth as
Yes.
well, right? Because you feel connected.
Yeah.
And also it's sort of a forum, right, where people can discuss between each other, right? It's not a broadcast thing, right?
Yeah. And I think that's really the crux of Belong, and that's why the name Belong, right? Because we want people to connect to India. We want people to feel connected to India, even though they are miles and miles away, right? So WhatsApp community is just a small way to help them feel that.
Right, understood. You also mentioned WhatsApp support, right? So customer support is really messed up in fintech and finance, right? Because the moment you want to reach out to customer support of a bank, they give a number, then it's AI at the other end, right? You can't chat, you won't get anything. You can chat, but you don't get anything out of it, right? So have you integrated AI, or is it purely human-centric approach?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's completely human-centric right now. I think we use, I wouldn't even call it AI, we just use automated WhatsApp for rescheduling of KYC. Apart from that, it is me or Ankur or someone else from the team, like a founder's office member or a product person even, chatting with our customers. And that was a very conscious decision. Because the thing is, we are a new company, and a very easy way to destroy trust is to talk at customers. And that's exactly what AI does, right? It kind of looks at some keywords and it will give you an answer. It still does not understand the nuances of your question. So, and that only a human can do. So it's really, really important for us to, at least in the initial stages, really understand what the customer is asking and connect with customers at a human level. In fact, initially when we were doing customer support, a lot of customers used to come and say, "Is this a bot?" Because they expect it to be a bot. And then the next thing would be, "Can I talk to a human?" And then somebody from our team is like, "I am a human," So because people don't want to talk to bots. So till AI gets to that level, I think I'm good with humans.
Also, everybody expect an AI. That's the truth. But so what is their response when they know that it's not actually an AI and it's a human? And many times it's the founder itself, right? So how do they feel?
I think they're relieved, most of them. Of course, some of them are a little suspicious or a little weirded out that the founder is taking chats. But they're just like maybe 1%. But most of them are just relieved, and they're very happy to talk to founders. Also because the initial customers of any industry, right, are enthusiasts. They are finance enthusiasts. So also they love to talk to us about how is Belong thinking about growing, or what is Gift City about, what are your backgrounds and things like that. So it's not really just about the product. They also want to understand us, Belong, the ecosystem. So it's really nice. I mean, most of them are very happy to talk to us, and we are very happy to talk to them.
So that was my next question. So what are the very common questions that you get from NRIs? Because see, everything is new here, right? Even the regulator is new, even the product is new, even the Gift City is new. So they have a lot of questions. So what are the biggest doubts that NRIs have?
I think first is about Belong itself, right? Like, are you registered? How are you allowed to transfer money from, let's say, UAE to India? Because it's very, very India has great regulations for finance, right? They're very customer centric in that sense. So they want to know all of that, to which, of course, we send them our registration and our regulation certificates and all of that. Beyond that, I think one of the questions is, how is mutual fund investment tax-free? That is really, because this is the first time that NRIs have had a mutual fund that is completely tax-free in India.
Right.
So it's almost like, first they're like, how are you doing this?
Is it something illegal?
Yeah. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Then of course we have to explain Gift City, and that is the second most frequent question that we get.
After I did one of Belong's video, I was getting question from, I was talking to somebody, and he was like, this is not regulated by RBI or SEBI, it's regulated by IFSCA. So it's not even a proper regulator, right? So they don't know anything. I mean, it's not their fault, right? Even I came to know very recently, right? So the fact that RBI, SEBI, this is a unified regulator, I think there's a long way to go, right, for people to understand.
Absolutely.
And I think when you give a personal touch to the customer support, I think it helps to exponentially send the name of Belong to their community, their peers and everything, right? So I think that's a good move, very good move. Also to understand what customers really want from Belong.
Yeah.
Right? I think this personal touch really helps, right? Yeah. So one thing I really want to understand here is, how long does it take for an investor to complete an investment from the point they download Belong? So we already discussed the onboarding part, but to complete the investment process, how long does it take?
So I'm really excited to answer this question because we've changed the game here. From downloading the app to making your first FD or your first mutual fund purchase in USD takes less than 48 hours, and we've already done that. A customer, more than one customer has been able to do this within 48 hours. They downloaded the app, booked the doorstep KYC, that happened the next day, and then the account was verified in a couple of hours. They transferred the money and booked the FD. And once we have video KYC, which hopefully is live when this is being aired, we'll be able to do it in 24 hours, because then the doorstep KYC piece doesn't exist. So you just complete your video KYC or digital KYC and your account's activated and you can invest.
Lovely. One important point here is, see, when an investor starts the investment journey and they see that there are a lot of hassles, there are a lot of documentation required, and it's not happening for a week or 10 days, then they're likely to drop off and stop the entire process, right? So they're actually losing the opportunity to invest in India or make great returns, plan their retirement well, right?
Absolutely.
So when you think of it that way, Belong is actually changing the game, when you think in that way, right? Because you're saving a lot of time and not giving people the time to drop off. Right. So they feel really comfortable with it.
In fact, that was one of our learnings from all the customer research that we did before we started Belong, right? Because people, especially the further they live from India and the fewer times they can visit India, most of them gave up in the KYC stage. They were like, we cannot do this because we cannot keep sending papers back and forth, right? Yeah. And the courier itself takes 10 days. And then if there's a signature missing, then it's another.
All over again.
Yeah. So there were a lot of people, and we all lead really busy lives. So beyond a point, if it's much easier to invest in the US, I'd rather do that than spend 1 month trying to figure out KYC in India.
Yeah. Okay. And how much does the time zone affect you since you're the CEO? Because suppose an NRI from a far off place logs into the app, right?
So like I said, I get up at odd hours because of founder anxiety. So it doesn't affect me that much because then I can read emails and reply. But on a serious note, right now we're just live in the Middle East, which is not very far from India in terms of time zone. So we are good right now. Our customer support timings are 11 to 8:30 India time. So that's perfectly maps onto the Middle East. But of course, once we open UK and the US, which is going to be again very, very soon, then I think we'll have to figure out a more 24/7 customer support.
Got it. So when you speak to NRIs, right, NRI customers, so how educated are NRI customers compared to resident Indians? Because does being in a foreign country where investment is considered normal, stock markets are, a normal part of their lives, does that add to their knowledge? So
I think definitely they are more exposed to investments, global investments, right? And by definition of being NRIs, they really have to get into taxation and finances a lot more because it's not simple for them. So I do find them to be much more aware. Of course, there are misconceptions, like a lot of NRIs do think that if you invest in Indian mutual funds through your NRI bank account, then it's tax-free because the savings account, the interest on savings account, the NRI savings account, that is tax-free. So they think that investments done through NRI savings account is also tax-free, which is not the case. Right. So of course there are these misconceptions, but I think by and large they are much more savvy. Like for example, INR depreciation, right?
Yeah.
Because they earn in non-INR, either it's US dollars or dirhams, they are much more aware that if they transfer their money to INR,
they can see,
that value will deteriorate. They can literally see it. Year on year, they can see it. So that is something that we don't need to explain. And that is actually one of the reasons why they really want to invest in Belong, because of our USD fixed deposits and US denominated mutual funds, because they know that INR depreciation is a real thing. And they can safeguard themselves from it if they invest through Belong.
Yeah, I think INR depreciation is, the USD denominated investment is a very huge selling point for Belong, because my sister's in the UK, so she was here. And when she initially moved to the UK, pound was around 100 rupees, 99 rupees. Now it's 116.
Wow.
Right, so imagine. So
exactly.
Now it's like she got a hike, right, without getting hiked, right? So that's the thing. I mean, so people would love to invest in those currencies.
Right? We can't wait to onboard her.
Yeah. She was asking me, when will Belong launch in the UK? So,
yes.
Yeah. Soon.
In a couple of weeks, I think we'll be live. When you see this video, we are live. Please check the caption.
So she'll be the first customer. Yeah. So we spoke about Gift City, right? So again, we told that it's a new concept. So how receptive are NRIs when it comes to a completely new concept?
Again, great question. Very exciting. I really thought we won't be able to pull this off because Gift City is so new and NRIs are not going to trust such a new ecosystem, right? But I'm amazed at how well NRIs have taken to Gift City. They research on their own, they talk to us, and they're really, really excited about it. And it's because there was an inherent need to invest in India. They do want to invest in India's growth. It's just that the regulations were very complicated for NRIs to do it, right? And Gift City removes all of that. So given that it is removed and it is by the government of India, they're super excited to invest and they've received it really, really well, actually.
So I think it's just a matter of education, right? Reaching more people.
Yeah. And people do their own research.
Yeah, true.
So we always feel that people are, people won't, or they'll just hear something new and back off. But I think there are a good number of people who do their own research, find out more, are genuinely interested in...
it's their money, right? So, of course,
and then make these investments.
Yeah. So out of the many advantages of Gift City, what do you think do they find more attractive?
I think, like I said, the tax-free nature of retail mutual funds is very, very exciting to NRIs, especially, let's say, like NRIs in UAE or the Middle East, right? If they don't have to pay taxes in India, and anyway there are no taxes there, effectively their capital gains come to them in USD without anything going in taxes, which is amazing. I mean, it's unheard of and it's amazing. I think the second thing is INR depreciation, like again we spoke about. They're very excited that they don't need to convert their money into rupees. The third thing is how repatriable investments in Gift City are. I think I've heard this a gazillion times that NRIs think that, and rightly think that if they invest back in India, or if once the money is in INR in India, getting it out of India is next to impossible. You can forget about it. So if they do like a property sale in India, taking that money out of India is a nightmare. Right? In Gift City, all of that goes away because it's offshore. So it's just like having a bank account in Singapore, right? You remove it, you take it out whenever you want to. So that's something that really excites them. And I'd like to think belong to.
Belong will be sure. So mutual fund and FD, these are two products that Belong is offering at this point, right? So out of these two products, which product does people feel more attracted to? So the point of the question is, are people more comfortable taking risk of the stock market? Because people like me, we have been educating people about stock market, mutual funds. Is it working? So
right. No, fair. I think they are definitely more risk savvy. So we found a lot of pull in mutual funds. I also think because NRIs are inherently risk takers, they have left their home and gone abroad to a completely unknown country to build a life. I mean, what's more adventurous and risky than that?
True.
So I think they're pretty risk aware and risk savvy. But in terms of demographics, I think I've seen younger NRIs be more comfortable with mutual funds, which I think is the same with resident Indians. And slightly older NRIs who have larger amounts of money to park, they would like to park it in FDs also because, they're retired or they're close to retirement. They don't want to risk their money on short-term market fluctuations.
Right.
So yeah, and also one really good thing about FDs that some NRIs like is that they have a nomination facility in Gift City. They can nominate. In UAE and a lot of Middle Eastern countries, it's the Sharia law that takes over. So if something happens to you, then your son will get your investments or you can't really will it to your wife, right? And for that's a very complicated process. So keeping large amounts of money in the UAE without nomination is risky for Indians.
Right. Okay.
So some of the NRIs have parked their money in our FDs because they want to avail of the nomination facility that's available in India normally.
Lovely. Okay. All right. So for an investor, how does their money move once they start investing in Belong, right? So for example, FD, suppose I'm putting in $500 or $1,000. So how does that money go?
Okay. So here, the simple answer is SWIFT. SWIFT is obviously what the world follows to move money internationally, right? So that's what most NRIs would use. In UAE, we have built our own payment rails because we have a PSP license, which is a payment service provider license out of Gift City. We can build these rails. Since UAE was our first country, we built those rails. So for them, it's as easy as a local transfer.
Right.
And we aim to do that in many other countries. So where we haven't built the rails, it's SWIFT. Where we've built the rails, it's like a local transfer for them, and it just shows up in USD in their Belong wallet at really good conversion rates that we get.
All right. So you've already mentioned about the AI part, right? So there is no AI at this point.
Right.
But as Belong scales, definitely we'll need to integrate AI, right? So at that point, what do you think your strategy will be in terms of interacting with customers?
I think once we have enough customer data, AI will work really well to answer the basic questions like what is the minimum amount of investment and things like that. But beyond that, I still think we'll have to be very, very careful about AI hallucinations because as a fintech, it is our fiduciary responsibility not to give false information. So I would still be very, very conservative about what kind of answers AI is giving. So I think like product flows and things like that, sure.
Yeah.
We have enough customer data, I can show you.
Mm-hmm.
But things like if somebody says, are mutual funds risky as investments? I wouldn't want AI to give them that answer.
Right, understood. Okay. Now, we spoke a lot about interacting with customers, right? So I always believe in fintech, especially in finance and fintech. Education is a large part of the success of any platform. So we know Zerodha Varsity, how phenomenally they have done, right, educating people. So is that something that Belong is focusing on right now?
Yeah, I mean, in a big way. Like I spoke about our community, we have a WhatsApp community, and there we spend a lot of time talking to NRIs, answering their questions. They answer each other's questions, which is also, educating. Your videos, for example, are very education centric.
Yeah.
The ones that you've been doing for Belong, and that is what we want to do, right? There are a lot of videos that Ankur has done on YouTube. We have a whole channel just on educating NRIs. So yeah, we have a blog with lots and lots of blogs. I think it's reached some 1,000 blog articles now, only for NRIs and NRI personal finance. So like you said, it is a big part. It's just that one has to be careful about not just dumping knowledge, but adding real value and answering real questions. So that is something that we have tried to be cognizant of. Really, where can we make that difference in an NRI's life?
Yeah, understood. So I only very recently came to know about Belong's blog, and I've been going through almost all the articles. It's very detailed, and mostly what happens is on social media, you get to cover only a certain part of it, right? We mostly people never get the full picture of it. But what I found fascinating about Belong's blogs was there's an end-to-end, discussion there basically. So you're discussing every possible scenarios. So that I really found helpful. So I would urge every viewers of this episode to go through that blog. Just with one article you'll understand how valuable the articles are, right? So we discussed education. There is almost zero education in the market when it comes to investing in subpar products, right? Because on a daily basis, I see people investing in ULIPs or non-linked insurance plans, endowment plans that offer like measly 3.5% returns, but people think it's a good product, right? So do you think a product like Belong, since it's a new avenue of investment and since it's attractive to NRIs, will save NRIs from investing in other subpar products?
I mean, that's the mission, Aswin. I think, I don't think any of us will be able to sleep at night if we give subpar products to NRIs. Even in Goalwise, my first startup, we gave direct mutual funds. Even today on the Belong platform, we are one of the few platforms that give direct mutual funds to NRIs. What I mean by direct mutual funds is basically commission-less mutual funds. So the returns are higher because lesser commission, like no commission is going to us, right? Most banks, actually, I don't know of a single bank that gives direct mutual funds. Most NRIs invest through banks. So I think that's really the rallying cry at Belong, that we will not sell subpar products to NRIs, and I think that's just not just a mission for us, but also I think it makes good business sense, because in finance, if you want to survive for the long term, and we are here for a very, very long term, if I can help it, you have to do right by the customer. There's no option. So even as a business to survive, you have to do right by the customers. And even personally, I think all of us at Belong just sleep better when we know we are doing right by the customer.
Yeah. So have you had customers talk to you about, any of these kind of investments they've made, the mistakes that have made?
I think not really, because people don't like talking about their mistakes, and understandably so, especially mistakes that have cost them their hard-earned money. But I think we know the mistakes all around, the LIC policies, the really bad ULIPs. So we know all of it. But personally, I don't think customers talk to us about that yet.
Right, true. So currently Belong is active in UAE and Qatar, right? So why these two countries?
Yeah, that's a great question. UAE was just logistically simpler for us to start with, because if you start with US, everything is more complicated, right? The regulations are more complicated, the distance, the time zone, all of it. And UAE has a huge number of NRIs, right? I think only second to the US, if I'm not wrong. So UAE just made logical sense. And then from then on, wherever we found more demand, we went there.
Okay.
And like, I think this is a recurring theme in this podcast, because it was doorstep KYC, we had to be very careful about opening up one country after another. Now that there's digital KYC, that's no longer a problem. So we are open to the world.
So that'll, okay. So you can instantly open to the world, right? Okay.
Yes,
so
and your sister.
Sister will be happy.
Yes.
Okay. And how much interest are you seeing from other countries?
A lot. Actually, I'm super excited. I don't want to share numbers here, but all I want to say is we are seeing phenomenal interest, much more than I imagined.
Okay.
So,
And in terms of customers, which state, brings you the most customers at this point?
Definitely Kerala, especially because of that corridor, right? The Middle East Kerala corridor. So a lot of people from Kerala, and then some of the southern states. But it's also a function of, who we are marketing to in that sense. So, but you have your usual states that are your NRI states. So we expect to get most from there, like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Gujarat. That's usually the map.
So I also recently read an article where it stated that NRI remittances to Kerala touched the 3 trillion rupees mark, almost tripled in the last 10 years, right? So that's the opportunity, for Belong, right?
Yes.
So if Kerala has that number, I'm sure Mumbai, Maharashtra will have a huge number. So these are the people that, will hopefully
and these are the people who really do want to invest in India's growth, and they deserve to. So, absolutely.
And this is your second startup, right?
Yes.
So, having sold your first startup, how do you think that startup experience helped you with Belong? So what are the takeaways that you have?
I think in everything, just understood how fintechs work much better. Understood at least somewhat how to manage stress, if not completely. How products should look. I think a lot of it, when I think I've done KYC for 10 years of my life. I've just done KYC flows so many times that some of the things are just so obvious to me now, which weren't the first time I was doing Goalwise, right? And I think what I've learned from Goalwise, which stays true even today, and which was true in Niyo, which is true in Belong, is in finance only two things matter. How easy your KYC is, and how easily your money gets transferred. If it's a card, how easily you can swipe it, it never fails. That's when you love a card. If your money can get transferred easily, conveniently, fast to your Belong wallet, that is what makes customers happy. So KYC and money movement, if you solve for, you are very likely to build a successful fintech.
Right, understood. So what is your personal finance ideology? So how do you invest your money?
I don't. I just give it to Uncle. He's the expert. He's the in-house expert. And I just blindly go by what he's saying. And that's how I invest. I don't have a personal strategy or philosophy.
Okay. So you don't pick stocks or anything.
And no. And anyway, as a founder, you don't have a lot of money to invest. So
Okay. Yeah. So we have discussed everything from customer interaction, the insights that you learn, how you're building Belong, the ethos behind it, everything. So is there any message you would like to give to your viewers, investors in Belong, or who'd love to invest in Belong?
please invest in Belong.
Very good advice.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Savitri, for joining us.
Thank you, Ashwin, for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Super excited to see what Belong is building and all the features that are about to launch. Right. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best.